Hello, everyone.
Hey, how are you?
Uh, I am. I am.
Yeah, I'm.
It's one of those days. It's like a funky feeling kind of day, busy day. Like you just have like something every moment kind of day. But like
Yeah,
excited to be here, excited to have a conversation. How are you today?
the exact same. It's
Yeah.
a funky Tuesday type of mood.
Mm-hmm.
Also one of the rare times that we are recording in the afternoon, so like the day has dayed already.
Oh yeah.
Um, the vibe, the tone has been set. We're here.
Mm, we
And
are.
I'm definitely really excited for the conversation that we're going to have today.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I will read the title of this episode. So, this is episode 8, which is like crazy to say that out loud.
Yeah.
From, this point, for those of you who have been listening, we've released, quite a bit of content since we started on all of our platforms. And still feeling really good about it. So, this is episode 8. It is Field Guide to Longing, the Art of Yearning.
Mm.
Yes.
Yes.
So, like, where to start? For me, I would say that this is a topic in which I enjoy talking about it and enjoy seeing things about it. It comes up on my timelines a lot. And that's specifically yearning. Love the concept of it. Um, and today, kind of hoping to flesh that out with Jen. She kind of referenced to ourselves earlier as the angel and the devil in this conversation a little bit, like on each shoulder, as we both are definitely coming into this conversation with perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to I would like to add some more background on Ronnie's perspective, if I may.
Sure, sure.
I think it's really important as we're hearing all of this from Ronnie that they're a pro when it comes to yearning. Background in parts work therapy and also death dualship. Okay, many
Yes.
hats that require you to be comfortable with the most uncomfortable parts and feelings you experience.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not trying to minimize myself here. I'm just a therapist with anxiety.
No.
So, basically, I think I'm going to be asking questions and probing in a way that listeners will be feeling a little apprehensive to what Ronnie is saying. So hopefully we go on this journey together and learn how to yearn effectively.
Mm. Yes, yes. Hashtag feel the yearn. Hashtag I do be yearning. All right, sorry, I just had to get that out. This has been on my heart for a really long time. So what do we usually start with? I would say, we're gonna define this, and then we're gonna kind of give you guys a reference that's pretty popular right now that I think we can kind of flesh out without spoiling things and kind of get you guys into the space of yearning, or you folks, you gentle people. um so with that being said, Jen, would you
Hmm.
like to define yearning for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Merriam-Webster, it started gently, but I am officially coming for you because every time that you give a definition of a verb, you use the word in the definition. And fourth graders, we know that that's against the rules. Um, so, and it's calling itself a noun,
Again,
listen,
here we are talking about like nouns and verbs.
masters not of English,
Nope.
but we're here. Um, so, anyway, yearning, apparently a noun. Um,
Allegedly.
a strong and emotional desire, longing, yearning for somebody or something. For example, a yearning for a quiet life, yearning to do something. In a sentence, she had no great yearning to go back.
Mm,
I mean, do we
yeah.
know what that means after that sentence? No, I don't. I don't think so.
It's a lot of
Cambridge.
using the word.
Yeah, right. So let's break it down some more. Cambridge. hopefully better definition, a strong feeling of wishing for something, especially something that you cannot have or get easily.
Yeah. And if you're like still sitting here like scratching your head, confused, I'm going to just name a couple different synonyms that are similar to this word that may or may not kind of touch a part of your brain that you're like, okay, yeah, I'm with you. So, like Jen had said, longing, pining, craving, desire. I like the word hankering, hungering, lust, ache, burning. When like as the list goes on, to me I feel like some of these words are pretty strong, like burning, ache. Like that to me
Mm-hmm.
feels somatic in the body. Whereas like hankering or longing might feel more mental when I'm
Hmm.
looking at it. And that might be different for everyone, but that's just where my brain goes.
Yeah.
Um,
Ooh, you know what? I think here's a good example. Just a quick one. I think the type of yearning that, like the deeper somatic feeling of yearning, is what a lot of us experienced during COVID when we were all stuck inside, especially the people that were living in cities that yearn to be able to actually feel the sun, to go outside, take a deep breath,
for normalcy.
for yearning for normalcy, yearning for life to go back to normal. Huge. Yearning
Yeah,
to feel safe, yearning for the social unrest to find resolve. There was so
yeah,
much that we were all experiencing so deeply that the word yearning was needed to be used at that time. And
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then something else I'll share too. I wanted to learn more about yearning itself. And the word, it comes from two different words, and when they were mashed together, um, eagerness and willingness. So I'm eager to have something, and I think this is so important because yearning, like as we're talking about, it's a physical experience too. It's a very deeply felt emotion when we feel it. I'm willing to be engaging with this thought and emotional experience.
Mm. Yeah, and that willingness, I think, lends it toward the act, or like you were saying, like that more verb part of
Yeah.
that experience. So with that being said, we love to give examples here, and one that is definitely on a lot of people's social media. It is on your Netflix. It is on your TV. You are rewinding it. You are rewatching it. Bridgerton. Bridgerton. Okay, we're not going to talk about season 3 in depth, as dear Jen has only watched episode 1, and I am an eager beaver who watched all of it on the first day that it came out. Um, yeah, in between work, it's fine. With that being said, on my
what
break,
what is what does your therapist do between sessions?
yearn. I yearn. Okay, so why I bring up Bridgerton, for those of us who are tried and true, whether you're the book series lover or you are the like live action Netflix adoring fan, whatever. That entire series is around yearning and desire and longing and like all of these things, and like not even just in the romantic relationships, but in like the mother's relationship, or the mother's attachment to the outcomes of those proposed weddings, or betrothed partners. There is the queen and her longing and yearning and desire to be a part of those things unfolding and be a hand that is carving the culture of her land. There is like all of the wait staff and like Lady Whistledown gossiping and connecting, and like for those who are not in that social status, I would propose there's longing and yearning and desire to maybe participate in some of the things that they get to do, to maybe live in that lifestyle, to maybe like get to relax, not have to work. Like none of these people fucking work, for one. Like I was like, what? Like what do you do? What do you do? So I'm not going to go too into depth, but Jen, based off what you've seen of Bridgerton in season 1 and season 2, like
Mhm.
what was your experience watching those? Because like for me, I am very much able to like insert myself into that plot and like be excited and watching like on the edge of my seat and like almost secondarily experiencing that yearning for that outcome. Like, oh my god, like when are these people going to collide? Like when are they gonna come together and realize
Mm-hmm.
it's all here? um
Yeah, I actually, that's the whole thing I love the most, is that eagerness. That to me is, I'm like, oh gosh,
like a kid.
I
It's like
it's that's the process of yearning. We're experiencing the yearning for that connection that the characters are developing along with
yeah.
the characters.
Yeah, and like for them, obviously they're not real people, but if they were, we are experiencing like a small portion, I think, of what that looks like in our real lives. And I would parallel this in our real lives to the yearning or the desire that might come up, and not necessarily in like romantic relationships, but just like in a general life kind of context. We can yearn and desire things. Like we might desire a certain career path, we might desire a like a way or a lifestyle, or we might desire, you know, just different things. There's so many things we can like really
Yeah. I
connect
mean,
here.
yearning for financial freedom,
Oh my
yearning
god, yes.
yearning to achieve your fitness goals.
Yeah.
I see
Yearning.
myself, I see myself doing handstands. When I'm in it, the handstands are not standing. But like, if any, realistically though, like, has anyone ever tried so hard to do something, like pushing yourself for that last two push-ups, really trying to get one pull-up, right? These movements and the really strong desire, physically pushing yourself to do something that's going to make you feel like you've achieved something that you're working hard for, and just being this close, so close, and not being able to have it.
Mm, mm.
See, devil of the yearn.
But how is that a devil of the yearn?
Well, if one is afraid of failing, or if one is not seeing the desired outcome at a desired pace, it can cause someone to feel discouraged.
Mhm.
It could make you rethink your entire approach to achieving your goal and being where you want to be.
Well, so there's a couple things that like come to my mind when you say this. So the first one is that like we cannot rely on yearning alone. Man was not built on yearning alone, my friend. We need action. There needs to be action. And yearning, we will kind of touch upon this in a little bit, itself doesn't need to be an event filled with action. However, it can be the catalyst for the discernment and the resolve and the patience to continue showing up for whatever desired outcome we have. Now, when we think about desire, and like I hear you wanting to get into our like dark and light, and I'm here for it. So, like, the darkness being, if we are just consumed by the activities of yearning or desiring or hoping for, and we never step into the living and the doing and the breathing and the experiencing, that's not healthy. Like, we cannot constantly be in yearning and feeling the waves of that due to the fact, like, just think about that state of being, like how you're feeling when you're yearning for something, or how that might show up for you in your lived life. I'm not 100% yearning all the time. I'm not constantly in that space. There was a part of me that thought about individuals who are neurodivergent, whom when they pick up a skill and they're not like immediately good at it at some points in time, or they're not getting those dopamine releases, they put it down because it's not turning out the way they thought it would, or it's not giving them the feelings that they desire from that thing. So they do quit it. And I got a room full of habits in this very space with us. We're in a cemetery as we speak, surrounded by sewing machine, ukulele, kalimba, all of these things that like I have such a yearning such a yearning to do, but the yearning isn't enough for me to actually do the thing.
Hmm.
And that's okay. It's okay.
Okay, so I know we'll talk about this more later. I just want to preface shame is a strong emotion that's secondary to yearning if there is not action taken or steps taken or the desired outcome being seen. So you
Mm-hmm.
want it so badly and you're not achieving it.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I really want to talk about more, but I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. So I think we need to take a few steps back here. So day-to-day yearning in a non-heavy way, right? Because it's not always a negative experience. It can be something that's really helpful, really joyful, fruitful. Um, think about dating. When you see someone that you're interested in, you don't know exactly what it is about them, but there's like just you're drawn to the person. You're yearning for connection.
So the relationships in the early on period, I think when we think of yearning, really align well because the burning and the aching desire that can be paired with that,
Mm-hmm.
of like maybe really wanting to be around the person, like the connecting, really wanting to spend time with them, really wanting to like, figure them out or like engage with them or just like have that connection
Mm.
over different ways. And I think that it like that period of time is also like it can be one that has like a lot of lust. And that period of time can last for like 6 months or so when you're still feeling that real heavy overlapping of desire and yearning and lust, like all of these like feelings kind of happening concurrently. So I'm curious, in the context of relationships, does the yearning, like, when the lust and all of those kinds of things start to settle, they start to equal out a little bit more as time goes on, when the yearning does come up, I'd be curious about how you see that kind of coming into action, because you mentioned before the action component to that. So like we're really talking about relationships right now, which I think is important. But I guess I'm just curious about yearning in the context of those more long-term relations.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like where it's not necessarily like, is the yearning even contingent on the relationship? Because I don't know that yearning really is always about connecting either.
I don't think that it is. And I think that's why I felt so enlightened when I saw that willingness is part of yearning.
Yeah.
It's like well, I guess when we're talking about relationship, I think that yearning is part of love. It's that strong desire to be okay with knowing that the love will eventually bring you heartbreak and grief, and
Yeah.
being willing every day to choose the joy and love that comes with that.
Mm.
So the yearning it transitions out of, so I think a good way of thinking about it in terms of romantic relationships is the connection, the desire, the longing, the what some call the honeymoon phase, like Ronnie was describing, that lustful overlapping, just wanting to get to know the person so fully and so deeply. And then you have that person, you know them so fully, you so deeply, and you've given yourself to them in such a full and deep way. And then that's where the daily willingness and the yearn for continuing to be what it is and what you've developed. I think that's where it comes out. And actually, that's where a lot of anxiety comes in too in relationships. If you have relationship anxiety, it's like, oh, is this connection going to last? Is this going to stay? Am I going to be able to
Mm.
hold on to this? Insecurities might come up. So, which I think I'm starting to figure out the positive part of yearning,
Say more.
because the yearning is what happens. It's the antecedent to the anxiety, which is cool because it's separate from, it's not the cause. It's
Yeah.
even though it's an antecedent, it doesn't directly correlate to anxiousness. It can correlate to gratitude.
Yeah. And I also think like I really want to move away from yearning in the context of relationships, because for me it is different from this. So like, separate from a relationship, there is yearning, I think, that comes in the form of nostalgia and in the form of like remembered experience. And the cool thing about like nostalgia and yearning is nostalgia is similar to like being triggered by your environment sensory wise. Like it's bringing up a sense. Like for me, that's how I experience like at least nostalgia. It's usually like something prompts it. It's not always very like random, I guess. Like there's something like I'm like, oh, like, but no less. I find that it feels like similar body sense. Like the feeling of nostalgia and yearning can be one and the same for me. Um, and I find that it shows up in a way where it really is this like strong feeling of something that you cannot have or get easily. So that like Cambridge definition, it is like literally that felt sense of like I imagine it like I feel it like a sunny day driving in my car, like the windows are down, I'm like listening to music, and then I'll get like this like this yearning, this like desire, this like, and it's for something bigger or greater or like different, and you can't quite put your finger on it, which is why I kind of put it to that nostalgia, because nostalgia is something that you can't quite grasp firmly.
Hmm.
Like it's just not quite fully there, and like this is similar to that, where it's like there's a desire which I think helps us with our momentum, like this like wave of like, oh, there's more out there, like I long for more of this. Like that's what my yearning is. It's like a desire for experiencing and like living and aliveness. And I think that's interesting because it that isn't something that you can have easily always or
Hmm.
ever. Like the systems that we live in, like the things that we yearn for, I think are like, it's not like yearning for this like crazy thing. It's like, I wish I could not work and just be able to like live on the land and go out in nature every day and just like see my people. Like that's not a crazy concept, but that's something that I yearn for. Like just like, so I love the idea of relationships because I feel like that's such like a felt sense experience as well. And that's like, I feel like yearning can have different shades. What do you think?
Hmm. I mean, 100% I agree. And I think it's one of those. I think yearning is a word that needs to become part of my vocabulary. I think it will for today because we're using it so many times. It's something that we talk about a lot in the therapy world. So you can't experience two emotions at once. And I think what I think this is meta. Try to follow my visualization here. When you are watching an old film, there's the arm crank. Someone is physically cranking the arm, and there's the light. And every time that you're between frames, it goes dark. And
Mm-hmm.
then you're in the new frame, and it's light. You see the picture, and then you go to the mid part where it's dark again. You see the new frame. And to me, this yearning is going back and forth between the strong desire, the love, the excitement for what could be or what you're longing for, and then the frustration and distress of not having it or it just being out of your reach. And the reason why I'm using this example of like a movie is because it goes frame by frame by frame. So it's desire, frustration, longing, heartbreak, love, regret, right? It goes cycles through so quickly. But when you're watching it as a movie, it's just like, just playing out right in front of you. So I think it cycles very, very quickly. So that's literally the bittersweet feeling that we talk about. I think that's so closely associated to yearning. And I would choose to feel bittersweet. I think I choose to feel bittersweetness every single day. I mean, like whenever I look at my dog and I'm like, oh my gosh, how long do I have left with you? Like that's a bittersweet feeling. I pick him up and I just like, I smush him and I give him all the love in the world.
Mm.
That's that to me is yearning for that connection to my puppy dog.
Also, Bittersweet, the Wood Brothers. Give it a listen. It's very good.
You're
And
not going to
it's
reference. I usually do some singing. Do you want to do some singing for us?
bittersweet, bittersweet. That's the way love is made. Mm-mm. And it is. It is. Like, so like, this conversation just begets more conversations, really. Like from what you're saying, I was thinking from that example that yearning is the darkness. Yearning is when you're in this
Mm.
pause, this like subliminal like space where you don't like yearning is the darkness. Like you don't know what's on the other side, but there's such a strong desire for that something that you think it could be that there's willingness to continue watching or participating. Willingness. There it is.
I thought you did it on purpose.
No, I didn't. There's willingness to continue seeing what it could be.
Mm.
And that part that you were talking about of like Dudley, their dog, that is also like anticipatory grief, which helps
Yeah.
us to be in the present. Like the acknowledgement of like, I don't have forever with this little guy is both anticipatory grief and also it's grounding you into like that moment of like, well, I have him right now. And like all of the like you said, all of these things are happening, like all of these different feelings, and like we're using a lot of different words here. Feel free to kind of like fill in the blank as feels appropriate for yourself. Like for me, like when I'm speaking about like the act of yearning, it is that like anointing of just desire. It is like the desire and the want for something. It does, I don't always know what it is, but I like that that energy is there for me. That desire is there because that means to me that there's still something. There's still open endedness. There's still, like it's not a closed book.
Okay. Question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you reconcile yearning with feeling unfulfilled?
Hmm. Well, so the thing for me is that it's about perspective and it's about how you're approaching said thing. So, like, if I'm yearning for this ambiguous, sweet something, this, like, who knows, like, I'm just like curiously open and, like, not really applying too much pressure for that something. Because I think about like yearning to me really feels like a verb. When I yearn, I am doing the thing. It is like such a felt sense for me. It's really hard to just like say that this is like a thing that I can hammer down. Whereas like so the perspective I'm coming into it is more of like a space where I'm just like like what is like what's going on here, or just like leaning into it a little bit. Whereas I think
Mm.
when we have the part of us that's feeling like we're not doing something, like we aren't, like for me that's just not true. Like if I were to be like, oh, I'm just not doing anything, like what does that even mean? Like what am I not doing? What am I supposed to be doing?
Okay, so hearing you describe it this way, it sounds like you yearn purposefully rather than have the thoughts or feelings of lack weigh you down. Like you're like,
Yes.
oh, you notice, and then you're curious about what it's telling you about your
Yeah,
experience.
because like yearning doesn't have to be about deficit. Yearning can just be about abundance. Yearning can just be about it's just like this heart, like this really like I don't know. Yearning is just this really nice space to be in. And I think if people are coming at it from a perspective of like desired outcome, then that's the part that you're feeling shitty about. The part that we're feeling shitty about is that we're making this expectation for ourselves and then maybe we're not meeting it, but we're still having a desire. So we're stuck in this loop of like, oh, I really want this thing, but it's not turning out the way I want it, or like whatever that is. And that could be really painful. But like your desire to do the thing isn't wrong. Your desire to want that thing or to like want to experience it or to have it or to do it or whatever the thing that you're yearning for is, there's nothing necessarily, there's no good nor bad. It's neutral depending, like let's preface like that, let's put some bars on that. But like say like you are really yearning for a home cooked meal, and then we like set the expectation that like it needs to be a certain thing or it needs to look a certain way and then it doesn't. And then we're feeling really like crappy about that. But like when I think, and like I know you're thinking about it also in the context of like showing up and like due diligence and kind of being like more than just like a one-off type of thing. It sounds like more of like a how do I actually like get to like the yearn goal, if you will. And I think that that comes into like, are you showing up? Like, because there's like, is this feeling that I'm having founded? And we've talked about this before of being curious and leaning in to what our thoughts are saying to us and like the story and like how it's making us feel. And if I'm leaning into that and I sit down and I'm saying like, wow, I've been really yearning to be able to do a handstand. I would love to do that. I see myself doing it. Like I feel it in my bones. Like, oh, it's just for me. But I'm not doing anything toward that. Like I'm not doing any physical practices. I'm not practicing handstands. I'm not learning about them. I'm not doing anything. And
Mm-hmm.
months and months and months are passing and I'm like beating myself up over the fact that I don't have a handstand practice. Is that
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the issue? It's like no. The issue might be in like why is this not translating into action? Like where do my motivations lie? Like is it fear? Like I think there's like ways that we can like lean into curiously why those things might not be coming into fruition. Whether
So,
it's us like or external, because it can be both. Yeah, so what can we do with the urine? Great question. So what we can do with the urine is like I think about yearning in like different ways, but if you find yourself contemplating and coming back to something specific, like there's a specific something that you find yourself returning to and you just can't shake it kind of a thing,
mm-hmm.
that to me feels like something energetically that you there's a reason why you're lingering on that. And this isn't to say like things that are necessarily harmful to us, but like something like, we've been talking about in the context of this, we might sit with it. Can we do nothing? Because like I think there's constantly a need for there to be an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes,
It's the need for evidence
yeah.
that that the effort you're putting in is worthwhile. Like for example, getting a graduate degree, it's 2 years of your life where you're making zero money because they don't let you work, and if you do work, it takes even longer to get the degree. It's a you know, whole thing. Um, Back to what I was saying though. When
Evidence.
we, yeah, thank you. Um, it's knowing that what you're doing has purpose, and or not not recognizing that the art of staying dedicated to what you're doing without having something to show for it until you reach that end, that's the art of longing. That's the art of yearning in itself. Is like sticking with yourself
Yeah.
and what, because it's not really like, yes, I'll have my degree, cool. If you're not patient to get the degree, you'll drop out. If you're not patient enough for being able to master handstands, it's not something that's going to be for you.
Mm.
So I guess patience is a big component of yearning effectively. It sounds like the two of them need to fit together.
Well, again, and it's all contextual. It's all about like what you're applying this term to, like
Hmm.
because like we said, yearning is both eagerness and willingness, and you can apply that to a lot of things. If we are in the context of the graduate schooling, the eagerness, the willingness to do the work, the belief in self that you can get the desired outcome, that's going to help facilitate the required action as you move through that.
You just got my wheels turning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wonder where self efficacy falls. in the perspective one approaches their yearn with.
Absolutely. Well, think about it. Like, if I am approaching my yearn in a way where I'm like, oh, this means something, like my desire to lean into a certain subject, or my desire to have a certain, like, you know what I mean? Like, if I have like this idea in my head of something that I'm like, oh, I want that. It's like, if I have this picture, then I'm willing to like work towards that, even though I don't necessarily know what the picture is going to look like, if that makes sense. It's
Mm.
like I have an idea, but I don't really know what it's going to be. But I'm both eager and willing to find out. Like, I'm on that trajectory. So, what to do with the yearn? I think it's like two parts. There could be action and non action. And the action is being willing to notice when that's coming up, becoming familiar with what yearning is like for you, because again, we all experience so many feelings, and I think we don't always have the context or the vocabulary or the felt sense to define what they are. So maybe this conversation will help you to kind of like flesh that out and feel more prepared to notice that when it does come up. And there's, I think, the action and the non-action, because like you said, John,
Mm-hmm.
there's a want, a desire, a yearning for evidence of the work that we are doing, or evidence of, you know, something that we might be striving toward. And the patience comes into that, because a lot of things, like when I think yearn, it's not necessarily something that's right here. It's not something that you can get or have easily. So there has to be some kind of gap. There has to be a black screen before we can get to that next picture.
No wonder it burns. No wonder it's painful to imagine it, because while we have the desire and the longing for it, so, like, we can see ourselves having it and how beautiful life would be in that, it's also knowing the gap, the distance, the effort, the need for willingness to show up every day in
Yeah,
order
the
to.
yes, the willingness to yearn. So not even just the willingness to show up, but also the willingness to still dream and aspire and consider and hold on to, or like hold with like an open hand, kind of hold on to, like let yourself like hold space for that, but be willing to like see what comes of
Mhm.
it. Yes.
The most powerful thing anyone has ever said to me that really stuck with me when I was just like going through trying to figure out like where my career would take me was, it would be such a shame to see you give up on your dreams.
Mm,
And I was like, huh,
yeah.
you know what, it would be, wouldn't it? And that's the thing. It's we get so wrapped up in the expectation. Ooh, ooh! I just gave Ronnie's yearn brain the tinglies. What happened?
Well, I just think it's really funny because I have a poem that I'm going to share with everyone on this exact topic, and it just like is very like in alignment with what you just shared.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Let's. Do you want to read the poem?
Sure, sure. Yes, yes, yes. So this is, it's called Yearning. I don't know like who wrote it. Unfortunately, there's not like a title on this, but I will like circle back and like try and find that after the fact. But it says, sometimes I feel a yearning for something, a yearning which no words can describe. And that something, I don't know what it is. No matter how long I stare at the sunset, or how far I walk under the stars, I can't figure that out. But I have a guess, and I think it is a yearning for a dream. When all your dreams are lost, you miss having a dream. And what I really like about this poem is that it somehow beautifully ties together, I think, what you just shared and like my personal like sharing on how I experience yearning. So like that's how the first half is how I experience it for sure. Like it's not something that I can describe. There, it is a something. It's not a specific thing, but it's there. And I'm just curious how that poem was for you, having
Hmm.
heard it.
I love it because it really does take away everything that we're expected to do. Expectations gone. It's that moment of not wanting that second that you're in to ever end. Like, that's how I heard yearning. And I really, really align with that. Um, Ronnie and I went to a concert You saw it at one of my all-time favorite bands. We have thousands of hilarious pictures of me acting like I was like, like gospel, like preaching the lyrics. I was so into it. And I turned and I saw the ocean and the sun was setting, and it was like it just had set, so the sky was purple and the moon was full and yellow, and like one of my favorite songs ever was playing. I was with my best friend, I was barefoot in the sand, and I just was like, this is going to be gone in a matter of moments. And I just threw myself so fully into the experience. So yearning can be a catalyst for living. It does not need to be a
Yeah.
reminder of what you have not yet lived.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this ties into the point you made earlier of that like anticipatory grief, or that like acknowledgement of death allows for the acknowledgement and the living of life. Like we can use one to catalyst the other. And yearning is the same. Like I've had that same experience as you, where you're in a moment, you just really want it to be in it, and like you want to just like, you're just like, wow, this is going to be like one of those memories that like I remember for a long, that I might yearn for at a later point in date, but right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, I feel like there's a word. There's a word for like present moment nostalgia. Isn't that a thing? To the interwebs.
Always. It's important, everyone. Use your tools. It says pre nostalgia.
That's it.
So it says nostalgia is a sentimental longing for the past, rooted in the Greek words for return and pain. It has evolved from being linked to homesickness to a more positive emotion, often triggered by activities like watching movies or reminiscing with old like loved ones. I think that's so interesting that nostalgia is coming up and that it's defined as sentimental longing for the past. So it's like literally yearning for the past.
But what's interesting about yearning, and when we break down the words that created the difference, I suppose, between nostalgia and yearning, is that it's painful past, while yearning is eager willingness. So, could yearning be the inverse of nostalgia, where it's the lived experience that you get to willingly engage in rather than look back on? And it has to be what
Wait, wait,
has
wait,
already
wait, wait,
been.
wait. What if yearning is like present nostalgia?
What if that's it?
Because when I was describing it, like I was thinking of the word nostalgia. Like that's kind of what I was using. Like that's the felt sense of it, but it's not nostalgia because it's not for the past. It's for like the future or the present.
Yeah, it's like the moment in the now where you're recognizing the amazingness of the now and your potential, and or your potential for
Yeah,
the
you're just on
future.
the fucking cusp. Like you're just like riding the edge and you're just like, what
You're in it.
is next? And this is like fucking Penelope Featherington. For all of you who haven't watched it, buckle up. Buckle the fuck up. Buckle up. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, so I haven't seen it yet, but I do want to share Pride and Prejudice. Ronnie hasn't seen the movie, Keira Knightley version. Um, they don't touch each other at all the entire movie, and then the tension is building, it's building, it's building, it's building. You get to the climax of the movie, they just graze hands.
No, I love that. As because in Bridgerton as well, there is like there's certain scenes where you see just like the touch of like the hand is so intimate and like it's all there. Like that right there. Oh, the like imagine the burning fucking desire. Woo! I love it. A slow yearn. We love a slow yearn.
Wait, ready? It's not I burn for you, not anymore. It's I yearn for you.
Yes. Fuck yeah, you do. Yeah, you fucking do. Mm, 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 mm.
That was my best book boyfriend voice.
I'm very proud of you.
No one hire me.
I'm not looking for hiring. Yeah, so I hope you all enjoyed this conversation. That feels like somewhat of a truly perfect ending. One
Yeah,
might one might even yearn for it. Who knows?
who
Um,
knows? This felt so genuine to like the reason why we started the pod in the first place is being able to have these philosophical conversations, like presenting topics to one another and like fleshing it out and really enjoying it and learning from each other. I got goosebumps a couple times. I thought
mm,
this is really fun to talk about. Um,
and I'm so
Phew!
glad. I'm so glad. I agree. I feel like this is not something that people often get the opportunity to really dive in deep about, and I feel so like very grateful to have a space in my life where I have like designated time to like do this with someone that I care for.
Yeah.
um
So check out the show notes, please. Also, check out the poll. I would love to hear from you whether or not you think that this is a cool direction the pod should keep going in, or if
yeah,
you prefer when we throw some knowledge your way. Just let us know.
yeah, let us know. This is definitely more of like an exploratory kind of conversation for Jen and I. We talked very like little about it prior to really allow ourselves the opportunity to kind of dive in here. So before we bid you adieu, I'm just thinking that we can remind you that self-awareness is your compass that will always guide you back to your center. So understanding your own rhythms is really a strength, and it will help you navigate your emotions and your reactions.
Join us next time as we dive deeper into the human experience. And until then, breathe, find balance, and know that you're not alone on your yearning journey.
That yearning journey. Love this episode. Share it with a friend who wants to yearn with us, or watch Bridgerton.
And lastly, thank you so much for tuning in. Stay mindful, stay present, and keep exploring that extraordinary world within. And until then, we'll catch you on the trails.
Catch you on the trails.
Ka-chow!
Oh, it's back, guys. Ka-chow.
Okay. All right, hold on. I'm going to stop.
I'm done.